Good evening and welcome to another episode of Tok Piksa. I'm Neville Choi. Tonight we look at the growing civil aviation industry in Papua New Guinea. It's an industry that has grown to meet customer demand in the movement of both passengers and cargo. To start off our program tonight, we look at the Rural Airstrips Program of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville. The Autonomous Bougainville government plans to open its rural airstrips to link people in its rural areas to the main national airports. And Bougainville's political leaders in both the national and autonomous Bougainville government are determined to work together with the National Airports Corporation to deliver this program. Our journalist, Fabian Hakalits, traveled with the technical team from the National Airports Corporation and inspected the 4 identified airstrips of Nissan Island, Buin, Boku and Torokina.
Papua New Guinea's Autonomous Bougainville government has rolled out a new program that will connect people in rural areas through air services. The Rural Airstrips Program will be implemented beginning with the redevelopment of airstrips. They were serviceable but closed at the height of the Bougainville conflict. A technical team from the National Airports Corporation, led by Chief Operating Officer Sylvester Kennedy, carried out inspections on these 4 identified airstrips, which are Nissan, Buin, Boku and Torokina. The inspection was satisfactory with the fact that people really need this service. Mr. Kennedy clarified the Rural Airstrips Program was not a mandate of the National Airports Corporation because they are in charge of only the 22 national airports in the country. But since it's a national government direction, the National Airports Corporation had taken it on board as a community service obligation.
Approach from the today, and we got 3 party involved. No development, no airports. One party and Olenaras, and it's a very beautiful one. One party and ABG. And another party and now and all National Airports Corporation, for that matter.
Women of Nissan Island have the darker side of traveling by sea to Fokker on emergency runs to access better health services. Most lost their lives whilst traveling through rough, stormy seas. While in mainland Bougainville, you have to pass through wet crossings. It's a life and death situation. And the message is clear: the demand of services into these rural areas.
There are people who want to fly direct from Rabaul to come in here too. But problem now is we've got no airstrip, so we have problems with tourists too. Many times they are coming into Buka and Aro, and they are getting higher cost to here. So if we have opened this airstrip, tourists will be flying in from Rabaul in here, because in the past Japanese have been flying all the way from Rabaul to here.
Kasi mi pla len onas lukau tim ta salong wi mi pla. Kalau lapun ibing kiwim golong kaman na mi pla tu. Oklong sana prosen na. Stap na tede yu pla oklong kam don. Kira pimpek disa airport. So mi pla kam now na mi pla ta yo ra tu mi ko background sampla agreement mo na yumi bai wokim disa airport I kama.
Torokina is one of the tourism attraction sites with many World War II relics. However, it can only be accessed through mode of sea transport.
We've been building it, World War II. Also, I think the country be building. So he coming up now. Before crisis, people have been using since 1993. After that, now bingat use long and mono na bin stapol sematin 2014. This 2014 mi pla bin clean him again. Mi lo case flow evo mi tok pini soli no gatrot batoli yusim wara loro ni godalo nambis o lai long ya tolis sabe yusim lo boat tasona lo go so mi riski lo mi pla lo boat na mi costim try pla moni tru lo on mani wo lo yusim lo boat.
Acting Chief Secretary to the Autonomous Bougainville government, Paul Kibori, commended the National Airports Corporation for the great contribution to Bougainville.
Within NAC, who have been able to assist us in terms of the advice and expertise they have been able to give us in terms of the redevelopment of these rural airstrips. With that, through the discussions and engagements that we've had, Bougainville, through the Bougainville Executive Council, has actually come up with a policy. It has a policy decision on the redevelopment of these airstrips, which now supports the initial ideas that we had to reopen these airstrips.
Mr. Kawari said the Autonomous Bougainville government's plans is to improve the key transport sector like the aviation industry.
There has always been this need to reopen or redevelop airstrips, especially in areas or districts that are isolated, for example, Nissan and Torokina, because of the hardships and difficulties in terms of transportation to these locations.
The Autonomous Bougainville government has welcomed the implementation of the Rural Airstrips Program. According to President Chief John Momis, the Rural Airstrips Program will provide better access to services,
encourages people to be law-abiding, and most importantly, encourages the people to respect rule of law, due process, and respect democratic processes.
The National Airports Corporation was happy to support the Autonomous Bougainville government. Acting Managing Director Joseph Tupiri says the Rural Airstrips Program complements those two national airports only in the Autonomous Region of Bougainville, which is Buka and Aropa Kieta.
And people like him by all the line who says stop and rural communities by connected. Now by then making plenty more people to travel or using big airports from Mipla. So by increasing returns for investment from Mipla, to big airport inside long autonomous region of Bougainville.
You're watching Tok Piksa. From airport authorities to airline operators, the people of Milne Bay Province can be proud because their symbolic identity will be flying up high in the skies of domestic and international airspace. This follows the naming of Air Niugini's latest Fokker 70 aircraft, the Alotau. And for Rossel Islanders, from where this traditional shell money originates, for Air Niugini to name the aircraft Alotau is not only a proud moment for the national carrier, but the people of Milne Bay Province who see it as homage to cultural pride.
Kali Jimmy comes from Rossel Island in Milne Bay Province, where the famous buggy originates from. The buggy has become the traditional shell money and over years is Milne Bay's cultural identity. News of the buggy christened over Air Niugini's latest Fokker 70 aircraft, Alpha November Tango ANT, and named Alotau, was tears of joy for Rossel Islanders like Kali Jimmy, saying it's the trademark and cultural pride.
And we very much appreciate Air Niugini And for this to be out there, we feel that we own that Air Niugini, because wherever we see a baggy being worn by somebody, we see that there's a Milne Bayan, because baggy is very much our trademark. It's our wealth and it's our pride.
And Kali further explains the processes involved in baggy making.
Our men go out diving so deep in the sea, very deep areas. They go get them and they bend them, they eat the meat and they leave the shell alone. And they put them into a process of making it. They break them into pieces, they drill them, they thread them on the wire and they begin to smooth them on the stones. After they are smoothened, then they thread them, and this is the outcome later.
It's just his 12th week as Air Niugini Alotau port manager since appointed in June. And for Robin Taman, the naming of the aircraft brings in a sense of pride and ownership.
When I saw the aircraft coming in with the Alotau and the buggy, it was something I will never forget. It's something, there's a feeling, joy, and not only that the aircraft will operate only to Alotau, but it will operate to other domestic ports and also international. And Milne Bay people living or flying out from other ports, when they see the aircraft named carrying the Alotau and the buggy, it will mean a lot to them. And it was a very proud moment when I saw my staff taking photos at the step of the aircraft with their buggy and the naming Alotau. And just 8 weeks, but I feel that I have stayed here for a longer period of time. And also it means a lot to the people of Milne Bay Province with the buggy. It signifies the cola trade.
Working for an airline operator is pleasing to see an aircraft flying with Milne Bay's identity.
When we first heard that the aircraft was being named as Alotau, we were pretty much excited and proud that management did finally decided to give the name Alotau to AN Tango. So pretty much I'll say we deserve it, because our port brings in a lot of tourists. We tourist in and out of Alotau. And yeah, we pretty much are on time most of the time.
Province as a whole, bag is recognized as one of those traditional necklaces in Milne Bay Province, and it's one of those necklaces that's been representative on the Milne Bay as a whole. So if people look at Bagi as a whole in another country, especially Papua New Guinea, and when they see this aircraft and representative all the time, Bagi as a whole.
As they see the Bagi, they will definitely know that they are from PNG. So Milne Bay, we're so glad to receive an aircraft, Fokker 17. With the Bagi on it, it symbolizes that all Milne Bays around the province are all proud to be all Alotau.
The name Alotau was unveiled in a ceremony in Port Moresby last month, officiated by leaders of the national government. Air Niugini Board Chairman Sir Frederick Raya said Milne Bay Province was recognized for its contribution to the airline and tourism industry.
Our services to Guinea Airport are well supported by the people and businesses of the province, and increasingly by tourists from within Papua New Guinea and overseas who want to experience the outstanding tourism adventures the province offers. Air Niugini appreciates that support, and we will continue to support the province as it continues to grow and meet the travel needs of the people of Alotau and Milne Bay as a whole.
Provincial Governor Titus Philemon was overwhelmed by the recognition. Governor Philemon says the airline industry is a key driving force of tourism, complementing the national government's Tourism Zone Support Initiative program for Alotau being Southern Region's identified spot.
I want to thank you all in the management for once again naming this Fokker 70 Alotau. Once again, on behalf of the government and the people of Milne Bay Province, I want to thank you.
Now, Niugini Alotau, they have to be prepared for the shift as a tourism destination. Alotau Port Manager Robin Taman says that airline staff must also be prepared, especially for international flights direct from Brisbane, Australia. And standards must be set to meet the tourist demands because the airport is the main entry point.
With the image in terms of our dressing and also how we handle customers, I think the first people that the tourists sees we at the airport, not in only in Niugini but the NAC staff and all the other airline operators. And that's the first impression of they get how we meet the requirements of the passengers and on their arrival, and also when they leave. What we do there is very important, or how we interact and how we handle our customers.
Welcome back to Tok Piksa. If you've ever traveled overseas, you know the feeling when you see your national airline touch down in a foreign land. Perhaps it's a feeling of patriotism. And that is exactly what happened on September 1st when the Bird of Paradise touched down in the Federated States of Micronesia for the very first time. For Niugini to operate to other Pacific Island countries and island states promotes a sense of Pacifica between Papua New Guinea and the Federated States of Micronesia. And the government of the FSM has thanked the government of PNG for connecting both countries through Niugini services that will be operated by the flag carrier. Our journalist Fabian Hakalits was on this special flight and brings us this report.
The Bird of Paradise has made its presence known again in another Pacific island nation. Niugini have already operated its services to the Solomon Islands, Fiji and Vanuatu with the latest addition to the Federated States of Micronesia. On September 1, Niugini operated its first special services to Chuuk and Pohnpei. I was privileged to be on this flight with 70 divers, and others by chance were booked on flight PX4072 operated by Boeing 737-700. Leading the delegation was Niugini Chief Executive Officer Simon Fu, General Manager Customers and Markets Dominic Kaumu, and Board Chairman Sir Frederick Raya and Board Director Sir Noah Levy. The Bird of Paradise, after 2 hours and 40 minutes, arrived in Chuuk. Now Chuuk shares the same time zone as Papua New Guinea on the 10 Greenwich Mean Time or GMT. From the aircraft, many atoll islands, which are quite similar to Papua New Guinea's Autonomous Region of Bougainville, my place of origin. It's our first stop, and here 70 divers disembarked to begin the diving expedition.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chuuk International Airport in the Federated States of Micronesia.
We've just landed at Chuuk on the inaugural flight from Port Moresby. It's a very exciting day.
From Chuuk, it takes another hour to Pohnpei. It's 1 hour ahead of Chuuk, just like the Autonomous Region of Bougainville and the Solomon Islands, because it's 11 GMT. The delegation was welcomed at Pohnpei with the words on the banner reading, Big Pela Hamamas, na welcome igo long Niugini PNG, na long kam long FSM. The government of the Federated States of Micronesia has thanked the government of Papua New Guinea for connecting both countries through air services that will be operated by Air Niugini. In an exclusive interview with Masai Holbert, who is the Assistant Secretary for Civil Aviation of the Transportation, Communications and Infrastructure Development, this new service will strengthen trade links and provide more business opportunities. Air Niugini's flight was historical, and both countries will work together to ensure this service is sustained.
This project has been a long effort between the two governments and the airline. I think it's been 3 years or 4 years of work behind the scene between the governments and the airlines. So today really marks a wonderful day as a result of all the hard work between the government officials and the airline officials.
And the rest is history, because it also promotes a sense of Pacificness.
There is history between the people of Papua New Guinea and FSM. I learned from my grandparents that the name Rapal in our village comes from Papua New Guinea. I guess back in World War II, some people of my village and other parts of Pohnpei were part of a group that were taken to Papua New Guinea. So it brings joy to me to learn that we can continue to strengthen the ties between the two countries and its people. So.
Air Niugini Chief Executive Officer Simon Fu said the partnership is about sharing costs involved in operating this service, and industries like tourism will be promoted.
Regular scheduled flights will start in December of this year and will be twice a week from Port Moresby to Truk, Anapai and return. And it'll be on the back end of the day when it gets done in the evening. They will sustain itself. Remember, we are trying to build Jackson's as a hub for the Pacific in between Asia and the Pacific, using Port Moresby as the hub.
Nobody else can say, because as you may know, the only airline here servicing here is United Airlines, and their interest here is not necessarily to bring tourists, but we all believe that there's potential. Opportunities there. It's just that maybe Australians, maybe Europeans, Asians, in order to get to us, they have to get through US, which is Guam, which requires US visa and all these other security requirements. So I believe this opens up another potential to bring in more tourists.
I'm not exactly sure, but certainly this from Honiara, this was the best flight and best options to come to Pohnpei at this time.
This is the most direct and appropriate service, saves time and cost, and it's amazing for passengers like Quentin Devlin, who works in the Solomon Islands. It now only takes 3 hours to Pohnpei rather than connecting through different countries. Normally it would take 2 days to minimal to travel to other Pacific Island countries.
And it's been a great pleasure to be part of this first Air Niugini flight, and really my first time to Truk, and I've already discovered that it's a really wonderful diving destination and also has many other attractions, and so it was a great pleasure to be part of here as I move towards to Pohnpei.
We started our journey Tuesday, Pohnpei, Guam, Manila, and finally we got to PNG this morning. But it took us 2.5 hours from BNG to reach here. The time is so much better than, that's how I say.
To FSM, I think will bring the Pacific much more closer, the Northern Pacific and the Southern Pacific. So I think that is very important, and this will also be good for the hubbing of Port Moresby as the center of the Pacific. So I think it's a good initiative, and I hope that it will prosper in the future.
It's always a privilege for operating crews like Athel Samlal, because normally they are randomly selected. Samlal says it was tears of joy and thanked Niugini for the opportunity.
I've got Jenny Banasi, Florence Subam, those are the senior crew, and we've got Henry Benson and Kaya English. We're all very privileged. We're so happy actually, yeah. First time for all of us, so it's something new, yeah. Especially when I make the PA and say, you know, hope to see you again when you next fly the Air Niugini Bed of Paradise service. It's very, you know, I'm really honored to say that, yeah. Yeah, especially to another country that we've never been before.
It's a pleasure to have different countries to visit our island, to see that there is a country named Bombay, or island called Bombay.
This special service is in preparation for the passenger scheduled service on December this year. Now, Air Niugini Chief Executive Officer Simon Fu says the direct service between Papua New Guinea and the Federated States of Micronesia marks Air Niugini's commencement and major expansion in the Pacific, and for Port Moresby as the Pacific's hub in the aviation industry. And the scheduled service beginning December will be serviced by the Fokker 70 aircraft.
And that story wraps up Tok Piksa for tonight. Until we do this again next Sunday, I'm Neville Choi. Good night.